everyone, I am Prabhu Khandelwal and I welcome you all to Simplilearn's YouTube channel. Today we will talk about Unity software and its features. But before we begin, let me tell you guys we have our daily updates on multiple technologies. So if you are a tech geek in a continuous hunt for the latest technological advancements, then consider getting subscribed to our YouTube channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon to never miss an update from Simplilearn. So now, without any further ado, let's get started and open up Unity software. Here we are in the Unity software. So let's create a new project. Let's make it a 3D project and name it Demo Project. And create project. This will take few minutes to boot up the software. So here is what a Unity project would look like. Let's explore its UI and tools and then try to create a simple project. There are many different layouts that can be used in this Unity. So basically this is our basic layout. Let's look at the UI more. We have two tabs at the top, that is Scene tab and the Game tab. What we are looking at is our Scene tab. This will be where we will place different objects in Unity. These are known as game objects. We will be placing them here so we can interact with them and write scripts for them. Next, we have Game tab. This is where we will be testing and debugging our game. We can also drag these windows around. So basically, we can create two scene windows. We can also put it like this. We can also put it like this, so we can have scenes and games differently. Now, we also have a 2D option in this Scene tab, which is this. So basically, we can use this to shift from 3D to 2D. This will help us in switching between 2D and 3D perspective. Now, let's look at the Hierarchy tab on the left. This serves as the list view for all the game objects for our project. As you can see, we have default two objects, the main camera, which is this, and the directional light. Basically, the main camera is where the game view is looking at, and the directional light is basically it provides us light. You can also notice that some information comes up in the inspector window when we are using this, like transform, this camera, then we have this audio listener and all that. We can also add more components through this. Add component button. We can add audio, effects, event, layout, mesh, miscellaneous, and all sorts of things. But if you are a beginner, then I would advise you to kind of follow tutorials on how to use them according to your needs, because you might even don't know what these components are doing in your project, and it will make debugging harder if any error arises. Now let's look at the tab on the bottom. First, let's check this console tab. This is where we will be getting if any errors arise during our project. We can also print debug message here using debug.log. Now let's go to our next tab. This is our project tab. Now this is where you will be placing all game files like scripts, materials, textures, prefabs and animations, and it will be stored in our computer. You can see that we already have a folder present in this asset folder, which is scenes folder. where this sample scene is basically the scene which you are looking up there. Unity projects usually have many scenes, like Assassin's Creed, where we have different scenes for different levels. But we can still make a fully functional game with just one scene. Now let's see if how we should be arranging our game files to make sure everything can be located easily when they are required. This also helps us with working in a team on a single project. So now we will create a few folders to classify files. We are gonna right click here, then go to create and select folder. Let's name it scripts. Let's make few more folders. Create material. Make sure to always capitalize the first letter. Texture. Prefabs. Animation. And sounds. Now, this is up to you what you want to name them because you are the one working on it. You might want to create more folders according to your need, but for now, it's enough. Now that we have enough info on the UI, let's add some objects and write a script on it. To add an object, we can either right click on hierarchy and go for these buttons, or we can use game object and create these. Now let's add a 3D object like a plane to our scene. So we will go to here and 3D object and plane. Note that we have some options on the left to interact with our objects. We have this view tool, which can be used to view the whole scene. Then we have move tool. This can be used to move the scene to up, left, and this direction. Note that when we move this plane, this inspect value is also changing. We can change its position like here, or we can right click here and reset it. This will basically make it to 0000 position. You can see in our game window where our plane is. Then we also have a rotate button which can help us in rotating these. Then we have scale option which can help us in increasing its size. We also have the rect size which can help in maintaining its shape and still increasing it. And then we have this master control which is called transform tool, which can be used to do all of those options above. One thing we must keep track of is where our object is. So if you see this inspect screen, it shows the position of our objects. We need to make sure that our objects will come back to 000 location, like how I did with the reset button. This will help us in putting our objects to the right place later on. Now Let's try to run it. We can play this play button. This will load up all the scripts and then we will go to our game view. We can close it since it is not doing anything right now. We have to make sure to set the resolution according to the platform for which you are making the game. So you can use it this way, free aspect or any. Let's choose it full HD, which is basically a laptop's view. We can also scale it, but this will not change the resolution of the game. What we will be seeing is this 1x version of it. Now let's stop this. To show more UI elements and some scripts, we will give this plane some material and color. Then we will create a button and write a script that will enable or disable our renderer. So now let's start by creating a material. Since we already have a materials folder, so we will just go inside this. We can right click and create the material. Let's name this material as green material. Do make a habit of naming everything with capitalized first letter. Right now it is only white, so we will change color from here. So we will green and go to this color and we can cross it. So now this is green color. To apply this color to this, we will just drag it here. Now let's save this project. Make a habit of saving this project, otherwise you might lose some data due to some kind of error or a power shortage or any kind of problem which can arise. Let's run it. As you can see, the color for this plane has changed. Let's close it. Let's go to the plane and see what are the components for this plane. For the components, we have transform, which basically locates its location. Then we have a plane, mesh filter, and then we have mesh render. Note that this green material is now showing in the mesh renderer. We need to remember it as mesh renderer because it will be used during the scripting. So now we will right click here and go to UI to add some UI components. We have in legacy, we also have text, button and drop down input field. Do remember when working with UI, it's better to do it under a user interface canvas. So we will first add canvas. So we will go to UI and add a canvas. If you double click on the canvas, then you can see a white outline floating in the scene. Now it won't matter where it is because if you look here in this render mode, it is showing as screen space overlay. So whether regardless of where it is on our scene, the user will see it over their screen. It will be a transparent sheet, so we will see when we go and compile this. So now in order to interact with our campus, we need a button. So we will right click on the canvas and go over UI, then legacy, then we will add a button. Let's resize this button to see it better. We can also change the name for these. We will write it as enable. We should make a habit of naming these buttons. So enable button. We should also rename it as green plant. Now let's try and run this. As we can see, we are getting a button here, but when we click it, it's not doing anything because we have not write any script for it. Let's close it and let's increase its size some more so that we can see it clearly. Scale, increase it here. Okay, now it can be seen clearly. Now let's go back to our plane. Now to write a script for it, we will go back to our asset folder and go to the scripts folder. Now naming is important. We need to give it a descriptive name to understand the working of the script. So I will name it as enable plain script. Always capitalize the first letter of every word. Just make it a habit. It will help others to understand what each script is. Now, this script in and of itself won't work unless we assign it to some object. So now, let's drag it to a hierarchy tab and put it on green plane object. So we will drag it. When it's highlighted, we'll put it. So now, if you click on the green plane, we have something called script tab here. Now we will double click on it to open the script. This will open an IDE installed in your computer. Since I had Visual Studio, so it opened Visual Studio. Let's start with this void start method, which is built into this mono behavior. And you can see that we are automatically creating a public class enable plain script, which is the name of our script, and it is inherited from mono behavior. So it will inherit these functions as well. For now, we can delete these methods and make our own. So we will be deleting these. Now we need our own variables to access some objects from the project. So we will need a variable to access a plain object first. So we will create a public game object plain. Then we will also declare a private mesh renderer. So private mesh renderer and we will name it my renderer. Let's save it Then we will attach it to our Unity demo project. And since we didn't got any error, so that means it must be working perfectly. So we will stop debugging. Repeat. Now let's run it again. Now it will still not work because we haven't done anything yet. We have only created some variables. So let's pause this. Now if you go to this green plane, what you will see here in the script, we have now a plane which will be asking us for a game object. So now we will drag this plane here. This will make it understand that the plane which this script is asking for is green plane. Since we made this mesh render private, so we are not seeing it here. If we make it public, then we will be getting another option as mesh render here for that. So now let's write a function to enable or disable the plane. So let's go back to our Visual Studio and write private void. We will not be returning anything, and let's name it on click enable plane. We will have my renderer equals to plane dot get component and here we will have mesh renderer then we will write a statement enable my renderer dot enabled equals to not my renderer dot enabled. So this will just flip the state which the function will be at. Now let's save it. Now to make it understand what I'm talking about here, let's go back to Unity. Here let's select this green plane. If you see this checkbox, when I click it, the plane goes away. When I click it back, it is here. So basically what we are writing a code is to simply this check and uncheck button. So now let's try it since we have already done everything. But it's still not working. Now it might be because we didn't write that start function which we had. So let's add that one as well. So private void start Now let's use what we had talked to you about earlier about debug messages. So let's write a debug message. So debug dot log let's write welcome to Simplilearn's C# Unity tutorial. Now let's save this part and go to our main function, close it, and then run it again. But still not working. Now another possibility is that we haven't attached the script to the button yet, which we didn't. So let's do that. Now we will click on this button, and here we will find something called on click. Here we will add this button. So now we have a slot to add an object. Now this should be an object which has a script attached to it. It should be that script which has the function which we want this button to do. So since we have green plane has an script, so we will drag it and put it here. Now we have an option to select different types of objects. So we will go to our enable plan script. Let's find our on click enable plan function. But as you can see, we don't have it here. What might be the reason? Let's go and check the script. Now here, if you look closely, we have made this on click enable plan method as private. We need it public for it to show here. So let's change it. Let's save it and go back. Now let's see if enable plan has, and here you can see we have on click enable plan here. Now let's add it here. Let's save here as well. Now let's run it. Now let's click on enable button. As you can see, now enable button is working flawlessly. Now let's try and build it. So we can go to file and go to build and build settings. Now here we have different kind of objects to choose for which function we want our software to work. We can go for Android and all that. But let's add a scene before we choose to do any of that, because without a scene it doesn't matter which software you want to do it. Now let's do a build and run. Let's create a folder and write it as demo. Select demo and select folder. Now we have to wait a minute or so for it to compile. Since it's a small game, so it should not take a lot of time. Here now, as you can see, made with Unity, and here we have our software. So if you click enable or disable, it is working perfectly. Let's get back to our slides. And this was all for today's session. Hope you guys found it informative and helpful. If you liked this session, then like, share and subscribe. If you have any questions, then you can drop them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more from Simplilearn.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.